On this Thursday night, surrender. America's 45th president arrested in Atlanta, where his loyal supporters are standing by their man.
He's done everything to save our country.
New theories about the downing of this jet near Moscow.
What the Russian state says is often very different from what's happened.
And what Russia's president said about Yevgeny Prigozhin, who led a mutiny against him. Worries about treated water released from Japan's Fukushima nuclear plant. Why it's being done and how many decades it will take. Plus, an exhausting and emotional firefight.
I don't want to see my hometown burned down.
A grateful BC community's unbreakable spirit.
Global National with Donna Friesen.
Former U.S. President Donald Trump has come and gone from Atlanta, Georgia, surrendering himself at the Fulton County Jail, his fourth criminal indictment this year. And this time, he could not avoid having his mugshot taken, a first for any former or sitting president. He was arrested on 13 criminal charges, including racketeering and conspiracy to commit false statements, accused of a conspiracy to try to overturn his loss in the 2020 presidential election. Good evening and thanks for joining us. These are the most serious of the 40 charges Trump faces. He was in and out of jail today quickly, his bail set at $200,000. Our Jackson Proskow is there. Jackson, what do we know about how the arrest went?
Well, Donna, a couple big points to hit here. First and foremost, he was given essentially a presidential-sized motorcade from the airport here in Atlanta to the Fulton County Jail. That's not something he's had previously in his prior arraignments when he's had a much smaller entourage with him. He was inside the jail for about 21 minutes start to finish. As you mentioned, a mugshot was taken. He has also been assigned a formal prisoner number at this point. He was able to self-report his own height and weight with numbers we should point out that do not match what he has reported in person during his prior arraignments. The other thing to keep in mind here now is that he is free tonight on $200,000 bond, but he actually enlisted the services of a bond agency to post that for him, meaning that he only put up a small portion of his own money at this point. Donna, as you mentioned, a mugshot taken, all of this marking another historic first for a former president of the United States.
And Jackson, he will be going to trial. He also wants to be president again. What do we know about the timing of the trial, and can you run for president while on trial?
There's certainly nothing to stop him from running for president while on trial or running for president if he is ultimately convicted and imprisoned. Those things are very much possible under the American Constitution. And we know that District Attorney Fani Willis is pushing for a very speedy trial here. In fact, one of the proposed dates floated today, October 23rd. That's just 60 days from now. Quite likely that Trump's team is going to try and object to this because, of course, they want to slow things down. But things are moving ahead. Also pointing out that Trump's former White House Chief of Staff, Mark Meadows, among those who surrendered among the 19 co-defendants in this case.
Jackson, this is a serious criminal case, 13 felony counts, and yet Trump's supporters say they don't care. Neither do most of his rivals vying for the Republican nomination. Here's what happened at the first Republican presidential primary debate last night, which Trump skipped.
Well, it tells you that they understand the power and the grip that Trump still has on the Republican Party. Look, I've been speaking to Trump supporters all day long today outside the prison here. They say they stand with him. They would support him even if he is incarcerated. Trump knows it. Each indictment bumps him further ahead of his political rivals. And look, he's the master media strategist. He turned himself in the day after that debate. And by doing so, he's got everyone talking about the arrest of the party's frontrunner and not the debate amongst the candidates who are running against him.
Okay, Jackson Proskow in Atlanta, Georgia tonight. Thanks. In Moscow, Russian President Vladimir Putin did not explicitly confirm the death of Yevgeny Prigozhin today, but he did call him a talented man who had made mistakes. Prigozhin led a brutal mercenary group that fought alongside Russian troops in Ukraine, but then turned on the Kremlin, directly challenging Putin's authority. The Pentagon said today it's likely he was killed when that private plane fell from the sky near Moscow yesterday, but there's no evidence a missile took it down. The leading theory now is that explosives were on board. Crystal Goomansingh reports.
A technical aviation probe and criminal investigation are underway, according to Russian media, following the crash of Yevgeny Prigozhin's jet. Why his plane carrying 10 people suddenly lost altitude Wednesday isn't clear. Witnesses report hearing a loud bang and seeing one of the wings fly off. While victim identification work is underway, memorials began to appear in honor of Prigozhin, Dmitry Ukin, said to be Wagner's co-founder, and other members of the militia. Nearly 24 hours after the crash, Russian President Vladimir Putin expressed condolences to the families of the victims. Putin said this about Prigozhin: he achieved the results he needed for both himself and, when I asked him, for the common cause, alluding to his work in Ukraine. Putin said he had known Prigozhin for a very long time and called him a man with a complicated fate. Many speculate the Russian president had a role in the deadly crash, but it's also possible, according to experts, that Prigozhin felt he was in trouble after leading a mutiny against Russian military leaders back in June and faked his own death.
So often nothing is what it seems on the surface, and what the Russian state says is often very different from what's happened in real life.
Ukraine's president wasted no time in stating his country had no role in the crash. It's not out of the realm of possibility that Ukraine or one of its allies would be blamed for downing the plane. Crystal Goomansingh, Global News, London.
Today is Ukrainian Independence Day, and to mark the occasion, troops launched a naval raid on Russian-occupied Crimea. Ukraine's security service released video of the covert nighttime operation on the western tip of Crimea. Soldiers say they fought off Russian forces and raised the Ukrainian flag before they fled. President Volodymyr Zelensky praised Ukrainians for their courage and defiance today. It is Ukraine's second Independence Day since the start of Russia's full-scale war. Ukraine declared independence from the former Soviet Union in 1991. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau spoke with Zelensky today. He congratulated him and reaffirmed Canada's support. And one last note on Ukraine. Natolka Simok has been appointed Canada's ambassador to Ukraine. She has deep connections to Ukrainians here and abroad and will serve as Canada's eyes and ears in Kyiv. In Japan, workers at the Fukushima nuclear power plant have begun releasing treated radioactive water into the Pacific Ocean. It's a crucial step towards decommissioning the plant that was destroyed by an earthquake and tsunami in 2011. The Japanese government signed off on the controversial plan 2 years ago. It will take decades to complete, and as Mike Armstrong reports, there is strong opposition.
Doing nothing isn't an option. After 12 years collecting tainted water at the wrecked Fukushima nuclear power plant, they are now at capacity. There are 1,033 massive tanks on site, and they've run out of space. The solution is a controlled release into the ocean. Continuing to just store it could be dangerous.
If there's another earthquake, that water could spill from those tanks and contaminate the area even more.
When the 2011 earthquake and tsunami hit the Fukushima plant, 3 reactors melted down and the facility was knocked offline. More than a decade later, the reactors still have to be cooled. The water used to do that becomes radioactive. There's also rainwater and groundwater. Now, all of that water is treated. It's run through a filtering system that removes almost all the radioactive materials. The process doesn't remove a material called tritium. Well, the treated water with tritium is diluted with seawater to make it, according to experts, safe enough to drink. As it's released, it's also being diluted again with more seawater. The tritium in it, experts say, won't be a problem.
The amount that is allowed in drinking water is more than what is found in the water here that is to be released.
Now, expert opinions haven't stopped the protests. This was South Korea Thursday. China already bans seafood imports from the Fukushima region. It's now extending that ban to all seafood from Japan and calls the release of the contaminated water selfish. But this is something that's done at nuclear facilities around the world, including here in Canada. Plants actually report exactly how much tritium they're discharging each week.
We're doing this for 50 years, and the amount of radiation is trivial.
For those protesting, this is an issue that won't go away for a while. There are 1.3 million tons of treated water to discharge about 500 Olympic-sized pools. It's going to be released slowly over the next 30 years. Mike Armstrong, Global News.
In BC, an out-of-control wildfire is still looming over residents in the Shuswap. The Bush Creek East wildfire in the southwestern part of BC's Shuswap region is estimated to be more than 430 square kilometers in size. About 4,600 properties are still under evacuation order. Another 860 are on alert, and not everyone is happy about that.
Back off.
This is not... Last night, a tense moment at a checkpoint. A convoy had made its way there, intending to dismantle it in order to help some people who refused to leave the evacuation zone. RCMP say the situation was ultimately resolved safely. The underlying tension, though, remains, and with the weather expected to heat up over the weekend, people are being urged to remain patient. Jamie Dahl reports.
Gone is the laughter, the splashing children, the summer repose. Instead, the shores of Shuswap Lake are lined with the remnants of people's hard-built lives, razed to the ground in an instant.
But some people have lost their homes, some people have lost their businesses, and some people have lost both. So, yeah, it's pretty heartbreaking.
The group of locals who stayed behind are doing what they can to prevent more loss here.
We're just working. When you're working, you're alert, you're going, right? You're lurking, still in the same shoes.
Dan Rohn is one of dozens of ranchers, contractors, and retirees wielding shovels and hoses, trying to protect properties and livestock.
We work till whatever we figure we got to, depends on the fire, and then we shut her down and we got night shift. Every 2 hours someone goes out and does where our guards are and checks.
But resident firefighters and others who have stayed to support them say they're facing another battle.
The hardest part is not being able to help each other. Like, we sort of feel like criminals. You know, like we're trying to get food from one place to the next and then we're getting stopped by the police, you know, so it feels like we're transporting drugs rather than food.
No, it's not the fires anymore, it's the authorities that I fear.
RCMP say there are more people not abiding by the rules, so they're increasing their presence in this area.
And we're at the point now where we're not allowed off our property under threat of arrest.
And you're off your property right now?
I am, you know. I mean, God, you know, how far do you comply with this kind of nonsense?
And you can see all the hot spots still smoldering in the forest. Locals who stayed, who have been volunteering to fight these fires, say that's a big reason why they will not be budging.
We're not here to be in anybody's way. You know, I'd go home and watch TV. I'm old. You know, like, so what the heck, eh? But you know, the situation didn't warrant that, so we had to fight.
The deputy regional fire chief praised the enormous community effort, but says it's time for the trained professionals to take control of the scene.
We respect and really appreciate the desire to help. We've had some instances of threats, abuse, theft of equipment, and other unfortunate events.
Frustrating to hear for those with good intentions here, determined to help in any way they can, in a community yet to really grasp the total scope of its loss. Jamie Dahl, Global News, near Sorrento, BC.
In the Northwest Territories, a fire near Yellowknife hasn't moved closer, but people are not being allowed to return because the winds are expected to pick up today and tomorrow. Several police checkpoints have been turning away people trying to return home, believing the threat is over. Fort Smith, near the Alberta border, remains under an evacuation order because the Wood Buffalo Complex fire is still out of control, just 4 kilometers from town. That same fire has also grown closer to Fort Fitzgerald on the Alberta side of the border. It's now just 3 kilometers from that community. It was an agonizing 14 hours. Coming up, new drone video of that cable car dangling precariously in Pakistan. This is excruciating to see. It's drone video obtained by the BBC of that cable car in Pakistan dangling almost 300 meters above a ravine. The 6 children and 2 adults braced themselves, no doubt fearing any move could make things even worse. After about 14 hours, everyone did get down safely, some by helicopter long lines, others along a zip line. The owner of the cable car is facing multiple charges, including endangering lives and negligence. Well, first it made history landing on the moon's south pole. Now India's rover is taking a walk. The space agency said the rover ramped down from the lander and began exploring the lunar surface. It's expected to operate for 2 weeks, gathering data and images to be sent back to Earth for analysis. That could help determine the viability of lunar settlements in the future. Helping Haiti ahead, can the Caribbean country rebuild from years of unrest? Canada's ambassador to Haiti has ended his 2-year mission. The Caribbean country is in a dire state, with widespread gang violence creating fear and chaos. Dan Spector on the outgoing ambassador's vision for Haiti and how the troubled nation may be able to emerge from the crisis.
A desperate cry for help from residents of Port-au-Prince, screaming for the army to help them deal with the criminal gangs that are terrorizing this area and many parts of Haiti. I left my house without any clothes, says this woman. My children have nothing. My home was burnt down. Sadly, her story is not unique. Gang violence has soared in the country since the assassination of President Jovenel Moïse in 2021. Regular citizens are caught in the middle. Much of the country is not under government control. The UN says criminal groups killed more than 2,000 people in the first half of 2023 alone. Kidnappings and rape are rampant.
It's as bad as I've seen it.
This is the context in which Sébastien Carrière, Canada's ambassador to Haiti for the past 2 years, just said goodbye to the troubled nation. His mission ended this week. He's returning home to Ottawa from Port-au-Prince.
It's really hard to leave this place. I love Haiti. I love the Haitian people. There's so much that we're doing and there's so much more to be done.
Carrière is proud of the help Canada has offered during his stint, sanctioning bad actors, funding humanitarian projects that help feed hundreds of thousands of school children, provide assistance to farmers, improve maternal health.
You listen a lot, you consult, and you try to build solutions.
Carrière thinks the key to a stable Haiti long-term is to better equip the understaffed Haitian National Police.
I think everything else sort of, devolves from that.
The Trudeau government pledged $100 million to the Haitian National Police earlier this year, but members of the Haitian diaspora in Canada are skeptical.
Training of the police, it would be a good thing, but it's not going to be enough.
Chantal Ismay points to the fact the current government was not elected. Many see them as illegitimate and corrupt. Top officials have alleged links to organized crime. To her, that undermines the police.
They need to have, the okay of the higher level, which that's where the problem is. That's what I'm saying.
Carrière says he's been pushing for elections, something Ismay wants to see immediately. But when that will happen is anyone's guess. The ambassador admits the job was hard work, but says every day he drew inspiration from regular Haitians rising above the chaos to live their daily lives.
I get my daily dose of courage from the Haitian people. They're extraordinary. They've endured things that us Canadians cannot even imagine.
Dan Spector, Global News.
Grief and gratitude next. Mixed emotions as the smoke clears over Kelowna. There is progress in the fight against wildfires in BC's Kelowna area. At least 2 fires are now classified as being held. Cooler temperatures and higher humidity helped crews starting controlled burns today, igniting pockets of brush to burn away fuel. And new aerial shots reveal the extent of the damage on both sides of Okanagan Lake. More evacuation orders have been lifted in parts of West Kelowna. Neetu Garcha has been talking to residents grateful to have a home to go back to.
I'm born and raised in Kelowna.
From the firefighters,
I was born and raised Kelowna,
to the volunteers feeding them, many on the front lines near Kelowna, BC, are fighting to protect their own communities. Larry Watkinson says it's been an emotional experience seeing all these signs of gratitude.
We're so deep-seated into the incident, it's hard to kind of look outside of what we're doing operationally. But now that we're winding things down a little bit here, it starts hitting home a little bit more and just realizing the commitment.
We're all live in these communities.
Kelowna Deputy Fire Chief Dwight Seymour says the fires burned several of the firefighters' own homes.
When I heard that a lot of their homes ended up not making it, that just shows the dedication. And they're still there. They're still out there fighting. They're still doing it.
Travel restrictions to the area mean several local caterers and restaurants are facing event cancellations. They donated food to the local Salvation Army's portable food truck and kitchen.
Feeding them on the side of the road to make sure that they could continue going. That level of love is it's overwhelming. And I don't want to see my hometown burnt down.
This university campus was evacuated and converted into a base camp for hundreds of firefighters. With progress on nearby fires, they're demobilizing here and focusing on the flare-ups in other parts of the region. Firefighters in nearby West Kelowna still working to extinguish hotspots. Volunteers equipping a group lodging space with more than 200 beds. And large shipments of donated food coming in by the truckload to the Kelowna Food Bank.
The kids and the people coming up and thanking us, that goes a long way. We don't always get that. Some people think they know better. But we haven't seen that from our community, and our community's really stepped up.
He says the character of the communities coming together is shining through the dark cloud of uncertainty in a firefight that's far from over. Neetu Garcha, Global News, Kelowna, BC.
And that is Global National for this Thursday. I'm Donna Friesen. Tonight's Your Canada is this firefighter, one of many, hard at work near West Kelowna, BC. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.